Well, in the western part of our world, devastating storms swirled across southern U.S. as death toll rises. Alabama sees the most damage yet from the massive tornadoes. Dozens of tornadoes spawned by powerful storm system wiped out entire towns across wide swaths of the South, killing at least 280 people. The death toll is expected to rise. Alabama State Emergency Management Agency reported confirmed 194 deaths, while there were 32 in Mississippi, 15 in Tennessee, 11 in Georgia, and 8 in Virginia. The National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, said it received 150 tornado reports around the region into Wednesday night alone. One of the hardest hit areas was Tuscaloosa, a city of more than 83,000 and home to the University of Alabama. The city's police and other emergency services were devastated, and at least 15 people were killed and about 100 were in a single hospital. By nightfall, the city was dark, roads were impassable, signs were blown down in front of restaurants, businesses were unrecognizable, and sirens wailed off and on, debris littered in the streets and sidewalks. President Barack Obama said he had spoken with Alabama Governor Robert Bentley and approved his request for emergency federal assistance, including search and rescue assets. About 1,400 National Guard soldiers were being deployed around the state. The Browns Ferry nuclear power plant, about 30 miles west of Huntsville, lost off-site power. The Tennessee Valley Authority's owned plant had to use 7 diesel generators to power the plant's 3 units.
The European nations step up pressure on Syria, summoning the country's ambassador and pushing for a United Nations vote to protest the increasingly violent suppression of anti-government demonstrations. In the coordinated moves, France, Britain, Germany, Italy, and Spain called yesterday on the Syrian envoys in their capitals to condemn the crackdown that has led to hundreds of deaths. UK Foreign Secretary William Hague also withdrew the Syrian ambassador's invitation to wedding of Prince William in London. In New York, China and Russia yesterday led opposition that blocked an initiative by the US and its European allies for the UN Security Councils to condemn the Syrian government's attack on peaceful protesters. The situation does not present a threat to international peace and security, according to Russian Deputy Ambassador Alexander Pankin. He said, referring to the standard for Security Council involvement.
Well, as disasters around the globe has been increasing, ASEAN countries decided to join hands and bring together watch or the natural disaster, you'd say that monitoring and watch closely to prevent further damage. Kun Sathapat Pathong, our reporter, has the details.
Royal Thai Navy, in cooperation with the United States and other member countries from Western Pacific Naval Symposium, organizes the workshop called Tabletop Exercise here in Phuket, Thailand. And the purpose of the program is to plan and execute the military humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations. Representatives from navies in 20 countries, including Thailand as a facilitator and the United States as a co-facilitator, gather in Thailand for the workshop on how the Navy can implement humanitarian assistance and disaster relief with the cooperation from international organizations, non-government organizations, and other concerned agencies. The major purpose is to strengthen understanding and develop cooperation in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, which now become one of important roles of Navy in each country. Other than representatives from the member countries of Western Pacific Naval Symposium, or WPNS, there are also participants from various organizations, such as representatives from UN and ASEAN, and observers from many countries. All of them will share the ideas and consider how they can provide support and help to each other.
มีทั้งจากระดับ สหประชาชาติจากระดับในกลุ่มภูมิภาคแล้วก็ในของอาเซียนเราเองเนี่ยนะครับเอามาแล้วก็มาทำการฝึกในคราวนี้ก็จะเป็นการฝึกในเรื่องของการจำลองสถานการณ์สมมุติขึ้นแล้วก็เอาไอ้ตัวเอกสารอ้างอิงทั้งหลายหรือความร่วมมือทั้งหลายเนี่ยเอามาทดลองใช้ว่าอันไหนจะดีที่สุด
What we are hoping to do is develop a deliverable that will show all of the WPNS navies how we can conduct ourselves to support each other, to work with non-governmental organizations, to work with agencies such as the International Red Cross, others that support us that are non-governmental organizations, so that we can ease the human suffering of those in need, help the host nations, and help the host nation organizations.
As natural disasters occur more severely and frequently, they become a major concern of each country. And those countries which are affected by the disasters might not be able to handle the situation. So international cooperation is much needed.
จะเห็นว่าลำพังประเทศที่ได้รับภัยพิบัติเนี่ยอาจจะไม่เพียงพอคือไม่มีขีดความสามารถที่จะมาเผชิญภัยพิบัติขนาดใหญ่ขนาดนี้ได้จำเป็นต้องได้รับความร่วมมือจากภายนอกด้วยซึ่งวันนี้ครับเนี่ยที่มาเนี่ยเราก็จะมามีการเรียนรู้ก็จะรู้ว่าองค์กรต่างๆในระดับต่างๆเนี่ยมีความร่วมมืออีกมากมายนะครับแต่ว่าตรงนี้ยังไม่ได้มีการบูรณาการแล้วก็เอามาร่วมกันแล้วก็กำหนดเป็นแนวทางที่ชัดเจนวันนี้ที่ออกมาเนี่ยเราจะมีเป็นเหมือนกับวิธีการปฏิบัติที่ชัดเจนแนวทางที่ชัดเจน
Another main purpose is to review existing references in the context of scenario to determine if participants adequately address response procedures for the maritime services. All references in the exercise include guidelines on the use of military and civil defense assets in disaster relief, the Asia-Pacific Conferences on Military Assistance to Disaster Relief Operations, ASEAN Agreement on Disaster Management and Emergency Response, ASEAN Standard Operating Procedure for Regional Standby Arrangements and Coordination of Joint Disaster Relief and Emergency Response Operation, and Multinational Force Standard Operating Procedures. The response procedures for the maritime services in the exercise are divided into 3 phases, comprising pre-deployment phase, deployment phase, and transition phase. For ASEAN, as the region is highly exposed to natural hazards, with floods, storms, earthquakes, and landslides as the most frequent, it is a good time for ASEAN's collective to tackle major disasters within the ASEAN region. And the region will also establish an ASEAN-led coordinating mechanism and play a significant role in the international humanitarian arena. Meanwhile, the exercise particularly benefits some ASEAN countries which are frequently affected by the disasters, as they can take the outcomes to implement their country's action plans.
Eastern Pacific Naval Symposium is some sort of meaningful endeavor to us for the Philippines, since the Philippines is frequently visited by typhoons and of course the tsunami incident in Japan. So this symposium is really necessary for the Philippines, and the result of this planning guidance will be applicable to the Philippines and of course to the Asian countries.
I think that's a good opportunity for us, especially from my country, Indonesia, from Indonesian Navy, because you know Indonesia has a location in a ring of fire. There's many of disaster, like a tsunami. It was in Aceh, earthquake, flood, volcano, and etc. So I think there's a good opportunity for us to learn how to assist, how to take action, take reaction to solve the problem.
The tabletop exercise is held until 29th this month. And of course, in the near future, there will be more cooperation and more concrete response procedures for the maritime services from every nation in order to cope with any kind of disaster and provide humanitarian assistance and disaster relief to all. สถาปัตย์แพทอง ASEAN Newsroom.
When we come back, we have a special interview by our editor, Kun Thanong Kantong, with the senior economist at EICSCB, Dr. Gampon Adrek Sombat. After the break.